Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Parents are claiming a Virginia school district is indoctrinating their children into transgender ideology, and they're taking their case to court.
The school district is also accused of hiding sensitive information on gender identity from parents. Tara Mergener has the details.
Harrisonburg is one of several school systems faced with legal action in recent months. The lawsuit alleges the district is promoting gender fluidity while hiding it from parents. Middle school teacher Deb Figliola is one of those suing the district.
We are putting kids in the middle of unknown territory.
The policy in question requires teachers to ask students which name and pronoun is preferred, and teachers must use it. A guidance counselor is to be notified if the student's choice is different from their biological sex, although school officials are forbidden to tell parents.
Teachers were not to speak to parents at all, in any way, shape, or form, not even to refer to the new name that the student was using.
The Alliance Defending Freedom has filed suit against Harrisonburg City Public Schools on behalf of 6 parents and teachers. As practicing Christians, the plaintiffs say this policy forces staff members to go against their faith, that it violates free speech and usurps parental rights.
Experts agree that parents should be involved in important decisions like these in kids' lives. And so that's something that's so dangerous about this policy.
District officials declined CBN's request for an interview, pointing us instead to this statement that reads in part, "The focus is always to foster a team approach that includes and supports the unique needs of the student and family on a case-by-case basis." At least 18 states, along with D.C. and Puerto Rico, have recently issued school guidance in some form focused on inclusion and treatment of transgender students. Lene Erickson, who came out to her own parents years ago, calls the issue complicated.
Folks are trying to figure out how to protect trans kids in a way that really respects all of the complicated dynamics in talking to kids about their gender identity.
Citing confidentiality and privacy, public schools often don't tell parents when students socially transition.
They made the decision to keep a student's preferred pronouns of they and them instead of she under wraps.
Like Harrisonburg schools, a growing number of districts in other states face complaints over secrecy.
You took away my ability to parent my child, even before I had any knowledge.
Others argue there are good reasons for not notifying parents. They point out examples such as to avoid outing kids who could be in harm's way at home, or kids not ready to tell parents.
The number one priority is what is in the interests and welfare of the child.
Deb, an educator of 25 years, however, maintains moms and dads are being kept in the dark at a time children need them most.
Parents are the most important people in children's lives.
Meanwhile, as the debate plays out, experts say the number of gender-questioning youth is on the rise, partly because there is less social stigma. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Well, I think the number one reason it's on the rise is the idea is being planted, and it's being planted at a development stage where people are trying to figure out, children are trying to figure out who they are and what's their identity. All of us have gone through it, and you know, it's interesting how in our teen years we think we're a whole lot smarter than our parents, and then in our 30s, when we have children, suddenly our parents become the wisest people on the planet. We should not have schools trying to separate parents from children and try to foster some kind of secret atmosphere, and that the parents aren't in the best interest of the child in this particular. It's absolutely insane. What is this going to lead to? Well, it's going to lead to a destruction of our public school system, something that has made America great, where we wanted to educate everyone. That was a key to democracy. What we're going to end up with is a public school system in shambles and parents being forced to educate their children on their own. In other news, widespread flooding in Kentucky has many people praying for a miracle. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The flooding has been so fierce that homes have been washed away from their foundations, forcing thousands to run for higher ground. CBN's Brody Carter brings us this look at the devastation and the trouble that's still to come.
We're currently experiencing one of the worst, most devastating flooding events in Kentucky's history.
Oh, this is, oh my.
At least 15 people are dead after torrential rains devastated parts of eastern Kentucky Thursday, and that death toll could rise. Fast-rising waters turned creeks into gushing rapids and roadways into rivers. Some families were forced to their rooftops to be rescued, while thousands were sent to shelters. Governor Andy Beshear calling on the National Guard, issuing a state of emergency.
What we're going to see coming out of this is massive property damage.
Residents in the small town of Elkhorn City, population 1,000, say they're the highest floodwaters they've ever seen.
Everything's gone, like everything is gone.
The National Weather Service now calling for even more rain, threatening many parts of Kentucky, along with areas in Virginia and West Virginia. Widespread flooding has also been hitting other parts of the country. Thursday, St. Louis, Missouri was underwater for the second time this week.
I am in a river. I have no idea.
Roadways covered in water. In Kentucky, widespread flooding is becoming a common disaster scene in the state's Appalachian region. Some communities are still recovering from massive floods in January and February, with similar memories from 2020. With even more rain predicted for today, flooding will resume throughout the weekend. As the damage mounts, officials throughout the state requesting prayers for people hit by the devastating floodwaters.
Asking everybody to pray. There's a lot of people out there who need help, who are really scared right now. And we're doing the very best we can to reach each and every one of them.
And I just ask people to remember when you pray tonight, remember the people in your prayers that lost what they've had, and we're going to really need the help from our state, too, for this.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
And many indeed sending their prayers. Turning overseas, Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine is resulting in Moscow putting pressure on Israel. As CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl tells us, it could stop Russian Jews from immigrating to Israel.
In a Moscow court on Thursday, Russia's Justice Ministry moved to ban operations of the Jewish Agency. While foreign organizations have faced increasing pressure in Russia for years, threats recently ramped up.
For the last 8 years, since Russia started its war against Ukraine, when they occupied Crimea, they were demanding that they stop collecting information about citizens of Russia and transferring it to the West. But of course, for Jewish agency, it's a ridiculous demand because that's exactly what Jewish agency is doing.
The Jewish Agency is responsible for worldwide immigration to Israel. Former chairman Natan Sharansky, a Russian Jew and human rights advocate, helped clear the way for the exodus of 2 million Soviet Jews starting in 1986.
We should not be desperate. At the same time, I'm warning all our friends in Russia and Ukraine that those who are seriously thinking about Aliyah should better do it as quickly as possible, because the situation is worsening very quickly.
Nearly 20,000 Russian Jews have immigrated to Israel since the invasion started, along with some 16,000 Ukrainian Jews.
And there are another 20,000 in the pipeline. My estimation is that approximately 3 times more Jews will come from Russia than from Ukraine.
In Russia, he says, citizens are losing freedoms at such a rate, it's a reminder of communist Soviet rule.
Wow. When I sentenced for high treason, exactly in what Jewish agency is accused now. The only freedom which is still left is freedom of immigration. And who knows how long it will exist. That's why Jews who are concerned, they are finding themselves in fair society, in closed society, they're in a hurry to leave.
Pinchas Goldschmidt, who served as chief rabbi of Moscow, couldn't return from a trip because he didn't support the war in Ukraine. He's now in exile.
These are complicated times, and there are many dark clouds on the horizon. also for the Jewish community. And this has been reflected in a great exodus of members of the Jewish community who have left Russia since the beginning of the war.
Svetlana and her husband made Aliyah from Russia 2 months ago. We've hidden her identity to protect her family in Russia.
We are very happy that we made this decision. The political tension is rising, and the activity of Sakhnut is apparently being questioned at the moment by Russian authorities. Not a lot of people can actually leave.
Rabbi Goldschmidt says tens of thousands more Jews in Moscow with Israeli citizenship simply left. He expects the trend to continue. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
An important story to tell. Gordon, those numbers of immigrants from Ukraine and Russia are just astounding.
And it's been astounding, the number of immigrants. But here's the great news, and it is great news. There's a place for them to go, and it's called Israel. You go back 130 years to the pogroms, the horrible persecution of the Jews in the Pale, the massacres that happened. They had to petition the Ottoman Empire in order to go to Israel. And now there is a nation for them, a nation where they will be protected, where they will have freedom.